Well, it's that time again. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the interview with Craig Veltri.
Thank you, Megan Pennington, and welcome to the interview. She's been called by the Beaver County Times as the best kept secret voices in Western Pennsylvania. With all due respect to Leanne Rogowski of the Times and with full understanding of her intention of that quote, I doubt anyone in the Pittsburgh area was trying to hide our guest today. If someone was, they have done a horrible job. Be it solo behind a piano or fronting her 9-piece band, the HR department, she's been finding her way across the country with a unique blend of pop, rock, and neo soul. Her latest single, Closure, is a vivid and candid and mournful ballad about the aftermath of a breakup where the only thing left is the exit interview. Recording in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and calling in from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Here she is, Megan Paullet. Megan, welcome to the interview.
Thank you so much for having me, Craig. I'm psyched.
Just to, I should have done this in the pre-interview. It is Paulette, correct? Not Paulette or Paulette.
Paulette.
Paulette. Okay. So Megan Paulette, I find it very interesting that you got such a late start in your career. According to interviews that you've done, you said you really didn't begin performing live until you were well into college at the moment, citing stage fright. What was it, the anxiety about? I personally understand aspects of it, but I've never really had it full blown like you have described. What was it that was keeping you away from the light, so to speak?
Honestly, I think just the thought of being in front of people was terrifying for me. Whenever I was in elementary school specifically, I would get so nervous being in front of groups of people that I would actually pass out. I would get so scared. It happened on two occasions that I can recall. Once was whenever my elementary school choir went Christmas caroling at a nursing home of all places.
Oh my.
And then the second time I was at an honors choir festival, and being one of the taller folks there, I was on the top riser and we got into our first song, which was a song that we were singing in Hebrew, and I just fell right off the back. And
Oh
it took me a
gosh.
while to kind of to find the courage to try to overcome that, because I've always had a passion for music, both as a listener and as a performer. But when I got into high school, I auditioned for my first musical, and that kind of forced me outside of my comfort zone and forced me to get over the stage fright really quick.
Was a lot of part of that getting into a character? Did that help with that anxiety?
I think it did, yeah, because I kind of got to step into a persona that wasn't just myself. I had the opportunity to kind of pretend that I was somebody different, and I think that that really that helped with the stage fright. And also, when I got into college, I continued with musical theater, which helped me to develop my stage presence, and in addition to overcoming that anxiety that surrounded me when I was in front of a crowd.
And did the piano come before or after you began your choral training?
Oh, long before. I started playing the piano when I was about 3 or 4 years old. My grandmother, my mom's mom, had a piano at her house that she kept in the dining room. And there were little things that she would teach me how to play, like Heart and Soul and chopsticks and
The standards.
the standards, yeah. But I started taking piano lessons whenever I was in kindergarten. I was 6 years old, and Mr. Telerovich, God rest his soul, was greatest, the greatest music instructor that I think I had, and was so influential for me whenever I was growing up. Because I took lessons from him all the way up until I got to middle school. And I remember my very first piano lesson, my dad got me a book of Van Morrison songs. And it was from his Moondance uh, album. And I took that
Record.
booklet of songs to my very first piano lesson, and I wanted Mr. T to teach me to play, and it stoned me. that was like what I wanted to do. I'm like, I want you to teach me this. And he laughed and he said, we've got to start somewhere else first. And so he kind of took my very
As
ambitious
somebody,
spirit and didn't.
as an aside, I having failed miserably many times trying to play Moondance. Good advice from your teacher, but continue.
Yeah.
That's such a complex song.
Well, he did a really great job of not squashing my ambition, but kind of showing me that there was a foundation that I needed to build first, and then I could build the other. I could lay the other material on top of that. But he taught me the importance of a strong foundation as a starting place, which I'm grateful for.
What of that foundation do you find that you still retain all these years later?
Oh boy. Um, well, he kind of taught me to see the from a playing perspective, he taught me to look for relationships between keys, and he kind of introduced me to, from a technical perspective, the circle of fifths and things that as a writer, in addition to being a performer, I still refer back to, like, whenever I'm writing my own material, I'll reference the relationships between different chords and different colors of chords to achieve a sound that I'm looking for. Or whenever I'm on a gig with another band and I'm reading a lead sheet, I know, because of the foundation that he laid, that there are certain things that I can play during certain chord changes that'll kind of fit with what's going on from a soundscape perspective. So that alone has allowed me to progress as a piano player, as a musician, as a writer, as a performer. And I don't know, because I was a piano teacher's or a music instructor's worst nightmare when I was younger, because I wouldn't practice. I take a lot of
Really?
pride in having a really good ear. And so a lot of times I would teach myself to play something by listening to it a couple times. And Mr. T eventually caught on to that. And that was
So is that
something
to
that,
say you can't sight read now, or do you are you able to read music, or are you mostly by ear?
both actually. When talking about the foundation, Mr. T, kind of showed me the importance of being able to do both. He said being able to play by ear and learn by ear is a really great skill, but you also should know how to read music as well. So I am now fluent in both, which is really cool and super helpful.
Hey, what's going on out there, Radioland? Megan Pennington coming to you with an extremely amazing announcement. I am nominated for a Grassy Award, yes, thanks to 97.7, the rock station, Shady Lady Productions, and all good things independent music. I am up for a Grassy Award for my song, Believe Me. I am so thrilled to be able to say that out loud. I just released the song this year, and it has already taken leaps and bounds as it goes along the way, and it's all thanks to you. So if you wouldn't mind going to butlerradio.com, find the Grassy Awards nominations tab, and vote for Megan Pennington with my song Believe Me. I will be forever grateful. That song in particular is a really special one to me because I was doing a whole lot of living and traveling when I wrote it, and I'm not doing that living and traveling anymore, but I love to be able to visit the moment where everything felt right for a whole 5 minutes. And I want to feel that way with you guys. So please give me a vote. butlerradio.com. Believe me, Megan Pennington up for a Grassy Award. And if you guys help me win this one, we can all hang out at the band jam together while I take my award and we hang out in celebration. So in the meantime, between time, folks, after you give that vote, stay healthy, stay happy, stay safe, and most importantly, peace and love. Thank you for your help.
We're here with Megan Paullet on the Craig Veltri interview, a service of Scarfire Media. For more on Scarfire Media, visit our website, scarfireradio.net. Check out The Flame, check out the Indie Musicians catalog, and all the great podcasts here on the Scarfire Media Podcast Network, including the Cool Brother Podcast and the Mothership, Fire Pit. Now, the influence that I really hear the most out of it shouldn't be surprising that a musical theater kid who plays piano of a certain age would not sound a little bit or remind you a little bit of one Sarah Bareilles. Are you, how much of an accurate statement would that be? How much did that particular artist mean to you? Because you call yourself a musical alchemist. You draw from a lot, but the one I hear the most is Sarah for sure.
Well, I really appreciate that. Thank you. Whenever Sarah dropped her album Little Voice, in I was in middle school at the time whenever Love's Song kind of came out and made its way into the scene, and I really took a liking to the fact that she could play the piano and sing, which is what I could do. And I looked for other artists that kind of had that the ability to do both of those things, like Elton John and Carole King. But I
Carol's
liked,
another big one I hear out of you.
yeah, thank you. What I really liked about and still like about Sarah's writing style is the it's kind of like a theater influenced style of storytelling. And you've in recent years you've seen her footprint in the theater and the musical theater industry with her
Waitress and
release
like.
of Waitress, and which is a fantastic musical that she helped to write. And I've always really enjoyed the simple melodies that she came up with, but the storytelling aspect as a lyricist that she was able to achieve as well.
I have always been a fan of her from the beginning as well. And a lot of what charmed me about her and charms me about her to this day is all of that and the simplicity of her lyrics, but the complexity of her chord structures and compositions on piano. You really don't hear a lot of stuff that complex and liberties with minors and sevenths, even a lot of the what you might call jazz chords
Mhm.
being utilized. Is that something? And it's obviously something that you utilize quite well. Is that a conscious thing, or do you just find that just where your hands are taking you when you're writing?
That's a great question. So, whenever I was in the early stages of my career as a songwriter, it was more difficult for me to pull out of my head what I was hearing. I kind of had to actively think about earlier I talked about like the colors of chords and the kind of emotional response that I was hoping
For
to.
somebody that might not understand the color of a chord or a color of a structure, would you mind explaining that to the audience about that?
Sure, yeah. So there are certain like in I'll use Happy Birthday as an example, utilizes a lot of major chords which are lighter, happier, like 1 3 5 type chords. But if you have minor chords, which take the third and drop it down, they're kind of sadder. Like if you were to listen to O Come Emmanuel. I'm a church music director as well on Sundays.
I
But that kind of a song has utilizes a lot of minor chords, so it sounds more somber. So there
and yet
are
it's saying rejoice, rejoice.
it does. That's the combination of the major and minor working together, to create different. The minor is a more sorrowful sound, but when you get to that section of Rejoice, Rejoice, majors are utilized to show that that is a more uplifting and joyful part of this piece. So,
Exactly. Um,
yeah.
so so you said that you had trouble early on trying to find it. Was it just the continuation of your practice, or did it just like all of a sudden your hands just hit at one point?
So I think that as as I've continued to refine my craft, both as a pianist and as a writer, I've developed and kind of expanded the musical vocabulary, I guess, in terms of knowing what it is I'm trying to achieve in playing or what I'm trying to replicate that I hear inside of my head because uh I never went to music school. I didn't study music. I
But you
took
did take
piano.
classes in college. I would think that counts a little bit.
I didn't actually. I
Really?
didn't take any musical classes. theater was just kind of an extracurricular that I was grateful to be a part of, but I never took any music or theater courses in school.
Hmm.
After I got out of high school, everything that I have kind of picked up or that I've learned, I've been self-taught. I read a lot of literature. I listen to a lot of music instructors and vocal instructors on their podcasts and YouTube now, their YouTube channels where they talk about different techniques that you can use as a singer or as a musician. And I've tried to take all of those things and kind of incorporate them into my daily practice as a vocalist and as a pianist. Um, but because I didn't have that background, I kind of had to learn how to describe what it was I was trying to accomplish because I developed my ear early. I have like a lot of ideas that I hear inside of my head a certain way, but I always had trouble getting them out. It's like how do I describe what it is I'm hearing? But once I developed the knowledge and the vocabulary of, okay, these are the structures of like a an A diminished chord. Like this is what I'm trying to accomplish. Like, yeah, that sounds like what I'm trying to do. Or I want to go from a I want to do like a C major scale and then do a pentatonic scale falling down. Like now that I have that vocabulary under my belt, it's easier for me to replicate the sounds that I'm hearing in my head because I have the connection between what I'm hearing and what it is, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, it makes sense. I've had several songs that I've written in the car or in my head or on a sheet that I can kind of hear it already. And once I pick up a guitar, it's pretty much already written in my head at that point. But yeah, that sort of thing does take time and developing. And as far as what your songwriting looks like right now, my standard question for all songwriters is this rather, are you a waiter or a writer? Meaning, are you very diligent about your writing? Are you doing it every day? Or is it just hitting you when it hits you every so often?
That is a fantastic question. So, up until maybe I would say about a year and a half or 2 years ago, I was a go with the flow kind of writer, and I always carry a notebook with me and a pen or a pencil or something to write with because you never know when the inspiration is going to hit you, and I wanted to be ready for that. I find that I utilize my phone a whole lot because of the going back to I hear the idea in my head. So my voice memos on my phone are filled with tiny clips and snippets of little melody lines or something that I hear, and I'll kind of talk through it and record it for later because I'm worried that I'm not going to remember it the same way that I'm hearing it in that moment. But I've tried to to intentionally take time to sit down and write a couple times a week over the past, like I said, year and a half or 2 years. I remember listening to, and I can't for the life of me remember what her name is, but there was a songwriter who's based in New York who was talking about how she sits down and she writes and for 10 minutes, and it doesn't have to be something that she's planning to release, and it doesn't have to be perfect. Just sit down and write for 10 uninterrupted minutes. And sometimes you'll get something out of that time that you will be able to use later. A lot of the time, she said she gets things that she doesn't plan to use, but it's the kind of like going to the gym and lifting weights. You're working the same muscle group and you're strengthening the muscle group over time. You're strengthening your skill as a writer over time just by taking those 10 minutes a day or 10 minutes every 2 or 3 days to just sit down and dedicate time to that. So just like with the notes or the memos in my phone, I have a lot of written snippets of things that I might use or that I might not use. And it's fun to be able to go back and see the progression of writing over that period. I actually just recently went back and revisited a song that I started and didn't finish, but was able to take to a collaborative session with another musician, and he contributed something that I never would have come up with because his experiences are different, his influences are different. So what he was able to contribute really took the unfinished product to a new level, and now we're hoping to release that sometime in the near future, which will be really cool.
You've done a lot of collaboration over the last 4 years here and there. One of the singles that you released was a duet, and we'll talk about that and your more recent stuff in a second here on the Craig Veltri interview, a service of the Scarfire Media Podcast Network. I will must ask, I should say, you named your backing band the HR department. Are you have you spent a lot of time in the corporate world? Have you have an HR background? Or perhaps is this a reclamation of the phrase human resources?
So I can't, it's funny because Megan Paullet and the HR department is a combination of two separate projects. Um, my guitarist Antonio Pagano actually created the HR department was originally a four-piece band that he created to serve as a backing band for artists in Pittsburgh. And we started to consistently work together so frequently that we actually decided to combine the two projects together because the HR department was always my backing band, and we just kind of started to just exclusively work with each other. And he was like, why don't we just, put the two together? And that's kind of how we came up with it. I don't believe that he has extensive service in the corporate, or extensive experience rather, in the corporate world, but all of the original members of the HR department worked in customer service. So I'm thinking that perhaps there was an influence there that came with the name, but I got to give credit to Antonio for that one because that was all him.
Now, the as dynamic with that many moving parts in a band, the new single that you have released, "Closure," is a decidedly much more simple, right down to the production, right down to just you and a piano. Was this I mean, again, I can't help but think of Sarah Bareilles and Gravity as a similar thing. Just the intimacy and the hers was a lot more of a desperate, plea. I got to get out of this. Yours, on the other hand, was more reserved as a in your delivery. What was going on in your life? Is this autobiographical? Is this pulled from a couple of other things? And through the writing, why did you decide to just piano, voice out?
So Closure is probably the most important song that I have written for myself, for my career as a musician so far, at least in the last 5 years. And I whenever I first wrote the song, I wasn't sure if I wanted to really dive into like the meaning behind it. But I found that it's been very freeing to kind of talk about the influence and the inspiration for the piece. It is autobiographical. For a lot of people that don't know, I was married for a short period of time, and Closure was a song that actually came at the tail end of my divorce.
Hmm.
And it was written during a period of reflection where I was kind of thinking about where I was at that moment in my life, being on the other side of that experience, and kind of the things that had happened and the growth that had happened for me during the course of that process, which was long. It was about a year and a half, I would say, or 2 years or so. It was a very long process. But I didn't want the song to be a sad song. It can be very easy to look at something like that from an outside perspective, or look at an experience like that from an outside perspective and think about it as a sorrowful experience. And it was in a lot of ways, but I wanted it to serve as a reminder that there can be so much to look forward to on the other side of a really painful experience. And sometimes we have to go through the most painful experiences in our lives to get to the best parts of our lives. And closure kind of takes you through the different moments in that 2 year span, from the separation to being past the finalization of the divorce. And I want it to serve as a song for anybody really, that just serves as a reminder that closure can be a really beautiful and powerful thing. And the reason that I decided to keep the arrangement simple is because I, whenever I first started, everything that I wrote was piano and vocals. And I felt like it was a way to kind of take back that part of myself that I felt like I had lost for such a long time. And it was very freeing to be able to go back to revert back to my roots and just make it a very stripped down, bare arrangement as a whole.
I have done the exact same thing. Listeners to my career and listeners to the program know all about my concept record, Letters to the Defendant. And a lot of what you described is a lot of what I was feeling and how I came to get the record out. I was just kind of one of those things that I was going through a divorce and I was going through a lot of changes and I just needed to get this thing out of me, even if it was kind of an ugly, very angry sort of thing. The difference between you is that yours wasn't very angry. It almost had kind of a conciliatory sort of thing. Did is that was that kind of just your way of closing it, or was it in fact a reflection of how? And usually I don't go with the salacious, so if the answer is screw you, none of your business, that's the answer. But was the end of that relationship, at least as far as closure is concerned, is it really a reflection of what actually happened in your marriage?
Um, no, actually. The separation process was very, very painful. It was very bitter. Um, I won't go into too much detail because I can only speak from my perspective and I don't want to speak for the whole situation. Um, but I can say that from my perspective, it was a very long and painful process. But I didn't, for a long time, I felt very, it was very difficult for me to think that something good could come out of that. And for a while, the thought of having to just completely start over was keeping me from proceeding with that decision. And I wrestled with that for months and months and months internally. I talked with a few people that I really trusted, and it the song itself doesn't completely reflect that. But again, that goes back to I didn't want to just remember that as being an awful, painful time because there were a lot of really wonderful things that happened and that kind of shone their way through the clouds of that experience. While I was going through the early stages of my divorce, I got to perform with the Pittsburgh Symphony. I got
Wow.
to
Just vocally? Were you accompanying as
vocally,
well?
yeah, I got to perform an arrangement of a song that I actually helped to write with Frizzy, who's a local Emmy Award winning artist. And that was in the midst of all of the chaos. That was something that happened that was really beautiful and wonderful. And then I, had other performance opportunities throughout that next year. I uh, wrote Closure right before my band played Picklesburg last summer, and that was only a short period of time after the divorce had been finalized. I think only a couple months after it had actually become final on paper, even though we had been previously separated for a couple years before that. So
And the thing about that thing about Picklesburg is that you were all over the press once that had been going on. I actually remember seeing you on at the gym at that point, just on one of the TVs. But
yeah,
and and I met you through Pittsburgh Downtown Partnership as far as the actual our actual meeting during
a
Christmas
holiday
time.
market.
But yeah, my question though is that when you were in the midst of all of that, was it occurring to you at some point maybe it's better on the side?
I I think that the moment that I sat down to write closure was the first time that I thought, okay, it's going to be okay. Because up until that point, there was a lot of uncertainty still. Like, am I doing the right thing by pushing forward with this? Is there something else that I could have done differently to change the outcome? Um, but I don't think that it was until that moment, which adds to why the song was so important. It wasn't until I sat down and I had written closure that I had closure for myself and that I was ready to take the step to officially be on the other side and move forward.
Well, all the best on that side. And as somebody who has been divorced now, I think almost 2.5 years. Oh God, it's like the world opened up. Would you say that's and it appears that way looking at your itinerary this week, and we'll talk about your dates later on
Yeah.
in the end here. But you'll be in Wyoming later this week, and you got several dates in and around the Pittsburgh area. How soon after all of that have you always been doing national travel, or is that just something that's been happening in the last little bit?
That's been happening more, I would say, over the past year. During the after the pandemic, I guess, whenever things started to open back up again, I was a school teacher for 8 years, and
What did you
before
teach?
elementary school for the most part, and then I taught music for 2 years, almost a year and a half.
So you got out of
Um,
that recently.
I did, yeah. Actually, September was September 20th was, or no, September 18th was my last day of work as a teacher. And I, whenever I had, because I was working in Maryland for a couple of years, but when I left that position, I had the opportunity to travel lightly and perform more as a freelance musician. I had some time off where I was able to do that more that I was grateful for, and so I got a little bit of a taste of what that would be like. But I would say that I really started to expand myself in that regard in the last year. In May, I went on my first solo tour out west. I had the opportunity to meet some really awesome people and perform in Nebraska, Wyoming, which I'm returning to this week,
Right.
Utah, Idaho. So I had the chance to meet a lot of really cool people and get into some spaces that I'm going to be honest, I absolutely would not have had things in my personal life not transpired the way that they did. I definitely would not be doing what I am doing right now. There's no way. Like I can say with full confidence, I would not be doing what I'm doing right now.
Well, glad for it. And we have a lovely way of closing here on the Craig Veltri interview, Megan. It's called the No Kidding Questionnaire. A couple of rapid fire questions. First thing that comes to your mind whenever you're ready. And away we go. Childhood celebrity crush.
Oh, Jesse McCartney.
You are the third lady that has said Jesse McCartney. What was it about the guy? The blonde hair, the blue eyes, the voice. What was it? The whole package? What?
He was on the pictures of teen magazines, so I just saw him a lot, I guess.
So I'm guessing you weren't a fan of you weren't bumping Beautiful Soul all through your childhood days.
It was around. I heard it a lot. I would have to say, if not Jesse McCartney, Christopher Plummer, because he could sing.
Now that's a first.
I don't know.
The
There's just something about that old school, like soft film, and then hearing him sing Edelweiss and then watching him dance with Julie Andrews that just tugs at your heart.
one of my dad's favorite movies. It's like we've seen the theater production of it once or twice, and yeah, it's a beautiful movie, and he is I think he's still with us. I believe that I hadn't heard that he had passed away. Comment down below, send a link if I'm wrong. What was your favorite? Being a teacher, this might be loaded, and music can be the answer to this one. What's your favorite subject in school?
I will have to default to music, but as a very close runner-up, writing.
Okay. Uh, do you have anything from back in that time that you've actually used in recent work or stuff you still perform?
Something in my repertoire that I still perform.
Yeah.
Um, the Van Morrison stuff.
So no original Megan Paullet compositions from back then.
No, nothing that from my really early years. No. A lot of the stuff that I wrote will probably just stay buried for a while.
Oh, mine are burned, so don't even worry about this side of the camera.
Considered
What
that,
a
I considered that, but there's a burning ordinance in Allegheny County, so I don't think I'm allowed to burn.
oh, like trust me, I know a lot of people who don't mind who have done more than just violate the burning part of it. But anyway, what occupation other than your own, if we can keep this on track, would you like to attempt?
If I wasn't going to be a teacher, there was actually a point in time where I considered becoming a roller coaster designer.
A roller coaster designer.
Mhm.
You had roller coaster tycoon at that point in your life, or is it?
No, I actually just had a really awesome physics teacher when I was in high school, and that was the only time that I ever considered a career change ever was when I had her as my physics instructor.
Okay, let's have fun with this. What makes a great roller coaster?
The change in speed and elevation.
Okay,
And it has to be quick, the rapid change in speed and elevation. Don't
okay.
let the rider get too comfortable.
Do you have a favorite roller coaster, and why is it the Thunderbolt at Kennywood?
It is not the Thunderbolt at Kennywood. It's the Top Thrill Dragster, and it's the speed. I like things that go from like 0 to 100 like real quick.
So you were more of a Steel Phantom kind of person,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
guess.
I
Okay.
guess you could say that.
So do you is that to say that wooden coasters are not something that you would be interested in building, or is that
Probably not. No, if I'm looking to achieve something that goes really fast, I definitely don't know if I could accomplish that with a wooden coaster to the degree that I would be envisioning.
yeah, the mean streak at Cedar Point, they say it gets up to speeds of like 70 miles per hour, and you can feel it the entire time, and then after you get off of there.
Oh yeah.
So, on the other side of the coin, I don't care how many bags of money are handed to you, would you never want to attempt, as far as a job is concerned?
Oh, um, uh, oof. Politician.
That's a popular one.
Never, never, ever, ever. You couldn't pay me enough. I just couldn't do it.
That's a lot of the problem. But what is your go-to food on a road trip? You're going all over the country. You got to have a spot or two.
Absolutely. In terms of like things that I take with me, I like dried fruits and chocolate covered pretzels, or I have a soft spot for those. Places to
Chocolate
stop.
covered raisins.
Chocolate covered raisins are good. I think I'd reach for chocolate covered almonds though first. It's a texture thing. I like things
Excellent.
with a little bit of a crunch. In terms of like places to stop though, if I'm at the airport, I love a good Auntie Anne's pretzel. If I am abroad anywhere, I look for a place with
They
a
were brought
really nice
anywhere, but
Americano.
I couldn't resist. You were saying
Really,
something.
you can't go wrong with a really great cup of coffee. So
Ah,
anywhere that's got a really nice dark roast.
how do you take it?
Black, usually.
Too. Me too. Uh, if you could have dinner, now that we built up a good appetite, if you could have dinner with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be?
David Bowie.
That is a wonderful one. Do you have? I mean, Zappa was mentioned in your in your list of influences. Bowie, I didn't really see him, but what was about Bowie that you would like to pick his brain about or spend an evening with him about?
Well, I guess the same thing that I would want to pick Zappa about is just his writing style, his creative process, just kind of I kind of put Zappa and Bowie not in the same bucket, but that they both use a lot of there are a lot of moving parts in their music, and I can hear that there are a lot of from a lyrical perspective, they drew a lot of inspiration from experiences that were happening around them and real world events. And I would love to I would just love to know more about their creative processes behind their writing. Like where do they start, you know?
And how do you get there on a couple of those things? I listen. You're talking about all of them. I was listening to Peter Gabriel recently, and I'm listening to some stuff off the So record, and I'm just like, how did he go from there and add that part and that part and that?
Mhm. Oh yeah.
What? So I, I'm I, I'm still very much 1465 in many of my things. It probably won't get much more complex than that. What is your biggest pet peeve
In general?
in general?
Oh, geez. Um, I would say someone who doesn't pick up after themselves, like throw away their trash. Like if you finish like, I don't know, like a carton of milk or like a thing of ice cream and you don't throw away the container when you're done and you just leave it out, I guess that.
I will. I mean, I've had my bouts of depression. I understand how things can kind of pile up, but after
Mhm.
a while, it's just kind of like, I can't move around the kitchen at this point. And in many roommate scenarios, it turns into a staring contest at some point. It's insanity.
Mhm.
It's truly what is at play. This is normally the last question of the questionnaire, but what is the best advice that anyone has ever given you?
Hmm. To remember that not every opportunity is an opportunity for you. It can be, and I know that that can sound weird, but it can be very easy, especially in the social media age, to become overwhelmed with what everyone else is accomplishing in their respective careers. And not not every like it could be easy to think like, oh, well, I could have done that. Like why wasn't I considered for this thing that's going on or considered as an opener for this show or but one of the biggest things that I was actually told recently was that not every opportunity is an opportunity for you. Not every opportunity that someone else has would have been a good fit for you or would have showcased you in the way that it just wouldn't have done a service to your craft. So I think that especially in the social media age, just remembering that not everything is for you, and that's okay.
There's room to grow in so much places. I've heard it said a lot recently. The grass isn't always greener on the other side. The grass is greener where you
Mhm.
water it.
Mhm.
Now, normally that would be the last question of the questionnaire, but I give a bonus question to anybody I find out is a teacher. I call it the Lonnie Billard Memorial Question, and it goes as follows. Maybe not the best advice you have given a student, but what is the most common advice that you found giving your students back when you were teaching school and currently as a director for choir?
Ooh, don't worry so much about what other people perceive of you. And especially as when I was a music teacher, I was also a musical theater director at the school that I was working at. And one of the theater exercises that I would do with my kids was um it was a they would have to it was the opposite of that actually, where they had to study each other for like 60 uninterrupted seconds and then turn away from each other and try to remember what the other person, like what color their socks were, or was this person wearing earrings or something like that. But to I tried my best to show them that they were in a, a safe space to experiment, that they could fail and it was okay, that they could try things, try different things, like try different voices, or try holding this note a little bit longer, or try using an accent with this line, and showing that not to worry about how other people would respond to them. Because whenever I was younger, I wish that I would have had someone tell me not to care so much about what other people think of what I was doing. Because I
Oh, they
feel like
told me. I just didn't listen.
well, I feel like I really missed out on not a lot, but there are a lot of things that I think I would have done differently if I wouldn't have been so concerned with the perceptions of others. So, and going back to the social media thing, with it being so prevalent for so many kids nowadays, like I can't imagine how difficult it is to be a kid growing up in the world today. Like I'm very fortunate that I grew up when I did, because I caring as much as I did about other people and their opinions of me, I just don't know. I don't know if I would have made it out alive whenever I was
uh,
young.
Me neither. I watched Facebook and MySpace happen in real time, and the world changed. Everything changed from truly analog digital combined to being completely digital, and that was the biggest signifier of it. And I agree. I do worry about that. I don't have any kids of my own. I don't think you mentioned that you had any yourself. So,
No.
among the many reasons, I am grateful for that. But uh, it's I hopefully hopefully there's still hope for it, but I agree. I think as hard as it was to be a kid, this stuff doesn't help. And you will know that I've retired when I have no digital imprint whatsoever.
Yep.
I could easily go to, say, Wyoming and just disappear. I could easily see myself doing that.
That's when I retire. My plan is to go to Big Sky, Montana, buy a big plot of land, build a small little house, and that's the end of it. You won't hear from me again until it's in the newspaper. That's it.
Well, until that day comes, we have one last bit of business to take care of. This should be the part of the program that every single solitary guest should enjoy the most. It is time for shameless self promotion. The new single
Woo!
is out, and all of your other singles are available. Where can we find them, and where can we find you across this beautiful nation of ours far away?
Absolutely. So you can find all of my streaming platforms, etc., and social media stuff on my website, meganpaullet.com. That's Paulette with two L's, one T, like Paulette the dog out. And that is, I always said I wouldn't change my name. It's the perfect icebreaker, you know.
It almost
Um,
almost as good as whenever I have to tell people my name is Craig, as in you ain't got to lie, Craig. But you were saying, continue.
I like that one. Oh, my upcoming show schedule is also on the homepage of my website. And speaking of upcoming shows, you did mention earlier I am going to be traveling this week. I'm actually leaving tomorrow morning for Cheyenne, Wyoming. I was invited to perform the national anthem at Cheyenne's Frontier Days, which is the largest outdoor rodeo in the world, which I'm
Wow.
pretty psyched about. And then this weekend on Friday, I'm actually going to be in Elmira, New York with Jeremy Edge. And that this is going to be the first gig that I'm doing with his band. I'm jumping onto a couple shows with them this year, and I'm pretty excited about that. And yeah, just And then next week, the end of the month, I purposefully scheduled a week off for myself. So I'm excited to take some staycation time and just relax because the summer has been very busy, which I've been very grateful for, but I could definitely use a breather. So
Now
I'm
you
looking
mentioned
forward to that.
Well, you mentioned the collaboration. The episode will actually drop the Friday of that very show you mentioned with that particular artist. Are you just sitting in with the band? Is this a shared bill? Is this somebody that you've collaborated in the past? Tell us about your show in New York and the
No,
artist.
so actually, I'll be doing some background vocal stuff. We actually were talking last night, possibly some auxiliary percussion as well, like shakers, congas,
Tambourine.
tambourine, possibly some Hammond organ stuff as well, which I'm excited about as an organist myself. I'm psyched for that. But actually, one of my friends, his name is Cody House. He plays with the band Space Weather. He actually connected Jeremy and I because Jeremy was looking for a background vocalist. And we chatted over the phone and haven't officially met in person yet. But we've had a Skype call. We're going to be chatting later this week. And this will actually be our first time getting together at this gig. So it'll be really great. But yeah, I'm going to be doing background vocals, auxiliary percussion, and Hammond organ.
It almost sounds like a Nashville gig. You don't even know the
And
guy coming in there. You just know the set list. You show up and no rehearsal. All of a sudden, you nail it. You're going to do great on that one,
Thank
Megan.
you. I'm super
Megan
excited.
Paullet, as in Megan Paulette the dog. I'll never forget you now. Thank you so much, Megan Paulette, for joining me today here on the Craig Veltri interview.
Oh, it was my pleasure, Craig. Thanks for having me.
The Craig Veltri interview, where Craig Veltri interviews wonderful people, is a production of Scarfire Media, the voice of the independent arts. Written and edited by Craig Veltri. Your announcer is Megan Pennington. The opening theme, Shut Up, I Love You, written by Trenton Chandler and Craig Veltri, performed by Craig Veltri, produced by Jack Gavin. You heard it last week, my brand new single, Saving Up Dreams, here on the Craig Veltri interview, and you can hear it on streaming coming very, very soon. How soon? Tune in next week to the Craig Veltri interview, where I interview singer-songwriter and Pittsburgh coordinator for the Nashville Songwriters Association International, NSAI, one Kim Maverick. You want to hear that interview? And you'll also want to hear, if you haven't already, the Off the Row sessions, which are available on streaming. Those are the 4 singles that I recorded with P.T. Houston at his Off the Row studios in Franklin, Tennessee. That's available along with copies of my limited edition vinyl LP, Letters to the Defendant. Just send $35 as always to my Venmo at Craig-Veltri, Zelle, CraigVeltriOfficial at gmail.com, or to my Cash App, $ Craig Veltri. Get this vinyl. There aren't very many left. Get it, get it, get it. Speaking of shameless promotion, time now to update the event calendar because you must know where I am at all times. Brought to you in part by Sandpiper Entertainment down here in Myrtle Beach. First, the Pittsburgh gigs. Friday, July 25th, I will be at the Grumpy Beaver in Bridgeport, Pennsylvania from 7 to 10 p.m. We've been talking about it for weeks now, and it is finally here. We're right on the doorstep of it. On Saturday, July 26th, myself and Megan Pennington, the sorceress of Scarfire, will be joining forces officially for the first time under the moniker Moonshine Vagabonds at Live 565 in Bellevue, Pennsylvania from 7 to 10 p.m. No cover charge. Will be at the Basement Bar 565 Live. That's 565 Lincoln Avenue in Bellevue, Pennsylvania. Megan and I cannot wait to see you to perform songs out of the Moonshine Jasmine catalog, out of the Craig Welch catalog, and songs from our upcoming release under the Moonshine Vagabond moniker entitled Inside the Cabin. That is Moonshine Vagabonds at Live 565 in Bellevue, Pennsylvania from 7 to 10 p.m. Then I make my way back down to Myrtle Beach Wednesday, July the 30th at the Wicked Tuna on the 2nd Avenue Pier from 4 to 7. Then Thursday, July 31st, Land Shark Bar and Grill in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, right on Ocean Boulevard, right on the boardwalk from 6 to 9 p.m. For full dates, go to craigveltri.bandzoogle.com for booking info, including full band on this podcast. Email me at craigveltriofficial at gmail.com. You can find the interview on Facebook by searching the Craig Veltri interview, YouTube at Craig Veltri Music, TikTok at Craig Veltri, and you can find me on Instagram, or as my old roommate, the Tommy Thomas, used to call it, Instagirl, at Craig.Veltri. For Megan Paullet, I'm Craig Veltri, and this has been the Craig Veltri interview. With that, I'll pass. To play us out is Megan Paullet with her new single, Closure, to close out the Craig Veltri interview, a service of Scarfire Media and proud member of the Scarfire Media Podcast Network.
I'm calling. Can you hear me? I've been trying to read you about the life you left behind. If you get this, can you call me so that we can talk it over? I've been begging for some closure. I'm calling. I'm calling. You're still with me. It's kinda hard to hear your voice through all the noise. I don't blame you for distracting, but at some point stop pretending this will have a different ending. Sorry I'm not available right now. I'm busy trying not to break down. Maybe tomorrow I can call and we can mull it over. Then the other side will finally be a little closer. It's the bottom of the night, I'm bringing in the closer. Yeah, the things they never tell you about getting closer. I'm calling. How you feeling? It's been quite some time since you've needed to cry like that. You know healing ain't a straight line. Sometimes feels like starting over and over and over. Sorry I'm not available right now. I'm busy trying not to break down. Maybe tomorrow I can call and we can mull it over. Then the other side will finally be a little closer. It's the bottom of the night, I'm bringing in the closer. Yeah, the things they never tell you about getting. Oh, it feels like it's getting closer to home. Gets a little easier to bear. Yeah, it feels like it's getting easier to go on. They said that it would. They said that it would. Sorry I'm not available. I'm busy trying to keep it together, and maybe tomorrow we can call and talk it over. It's a Friday night and he's taking me out. You know the place with the view up there on the mountain. He says he's getting me at 8. He's got a reservation. No, I didn't have to ask, he just said come over. Yeah, the things they never tell you about getting closure.